Do I have a story? Here we go. This location, this is the only dining room unit, really. There's one in the back corner that does the hallway, but this one does the heavy lifting for the dining room. And yesterday, let's just call it yesterday and keep it simple. Yesterday, they said it wasn't working. They had an event coming on and they really needed it, online. So I wasn't able to get here quick as my helper was. And he's learned the air conditioners. He's doing fine. So it's like, hey, get out there, check it out, see what's going on. So he came out and very correctly troubleshot it, said, hey man, I've got a call for cooling and I've got 24 volts at my contactors, at both of them. It was trying to call for both stages, but the contactors wouldn't pull in. So he replaced both contactors. And then when we fired it up, this fan wasn't running. It's the only condenser fan. So what I asked him was like, well, because he bumped it to make sure that it would run. But when he bumped it, he was just in here bumping it, recognized that the compressors came on. He can't say definitively, did this fan come on or not? So it was like, man, did he wire it wrong? Did he whatever? He did not wire it wrong. Everything is wired beautifully. So he grabbed the motor and he put in a motor. Now the old motor is here. The old motor is very hard to read the label. Okay? And the model number of the unit is long since gone. Trane does also put them inside, but it's a 1075 motor, right? It's pretty standard. He puts the motor in, wires it up, everything's golden, fires the unit up, booyah, right? She's spinning the right direction, she's discharging air, no problems. It's rated for 5 amps. It's pulling 2.5. We're golden. Space starts to cool down. He takes half hour cleaning up. He leaves. A few hours later, right before their event starts, the owner, texts me, says, hey, that AC's not working again. And I don't believe him. I'm like, you must be mistaken. I promise you it's working. He came up here to the roof and could feel the heat coming off the unit, and this fan was not running. What in the world, right? So I was even further away at that point. And so I talked to somebody who is very wise and threw the situation by him, and he said sometimes these old Trane units, instead of an 1100 RPM motor, they use like an 850 RPM motor because the blades are so sharply angled, and you can see they're pretty aggressive, that if you try and spin them at 1100 RPMs, you're gonna tear up your motor. And so my assumption was that's what happened. Well, my local parts house didn't have that motor, I didn't have that motor. So we ran out here last night and pulled the Super Hoobity, and with our fan dead, we turned this on a spray and we water cooled the coil. And you can see this thing, I've recommended and quoted we replace it, but it is what it is, right? So we water cooled the unit, had our pressures hooked up to it. Again, not me, but helper. And we were running 200 head pressure, maintaining 200 head pressure. Room was cooling down. We were golden. So that gets us through to this morning when I can get out here and see what the heck is going on. Well, then last night at about 7:30, the owner sends me another text and he's like, hey, AC's working great, but and the ceiling was leaking around this unit because we were introducing water, and he's had water issues here before, and I feel like it's probably just some nonsense like that. It's not leaking like dumping in, but it built up and then did its thing. So I'm here this morning to see what's going on, and I've got a couple issues. One is that when I manually launch the unit, Everything runs and the fan does not indicate it's overheating. Right? I expected to see it overamping because we're trying to push that fan blade too hard, but it's not. The old motor is here, and when I'm really digging into it, I can see that RPMs is 1100. So I don't have the wrong motor. So either this motor had a loose connection, which I checked, right? We had all of our connections here. He had them taped up properly. Everything's in, everything's good. Nothing looks funny. We had a bad motor right out of the box, you know, or what the heck. Currently, my question is, I can't jump it, right? From red to yellow. Oh, now she jumps, okay. I was trying to jump it before and it wouldn't jump. And I thought maybe the ambient sensor. Look at that little guy. We're right by an airport. That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna jump this guy out and I'm just gonna let it run. I need to see what this fan does. Now granted, it's, you know, it's beautiful. It's 70 degrees right now. Yesterday was 88. I don't get it, man. Contactor says it's calling. Stand by. Oh, here's where facts are taking me. I power this thing on. I've got 24 volts running to my coil. I put it on my coil, my contactor doesn't pull in. I jump it, my contactor doesn't pull in. My blower just did, right? So that's what that was. We have a bad contactor right out of the box. Now we're getting somewhere. So I was concerned that we had put on the wrong contactor coil. But look, I got 24 volts if I don't put a load on it. But when I put a load on it, it won't pull in. Let me slide this on. This is why I brought a new one up, so I can monkey with it without the risk of getting zapped. And now, I got 0. So it's dropping out. Something in the cooling circuit can't handle the load of the contactor. I know this is wackadoo, but stay with me. So I grabbed this contactor, and I couldn't do it one-handed because I didn't have 2 jumpers to do it. But I powered this contactor's coil straight off the transformer while the blower was running, and it pulled right in. So that lets me know that I'm good. My contactor, or my transformer, has the strength. It's not a transformer problem. Don't just change the transformer. My cooling circuit is the problem. So I'm gonna pull my 24 volts straight from my thermostat. I'm using both the schematic there and the wires to confirm, right, that my blue wires are my high pressure or my low pressure switch, and my black wires are my high pressure switch. I'm gonna run them in succession. So I'm gonna come out of this into my low pressure, out of my low pressure into my high pressure, and then out of my high pressure directly to that contactor. And I'm going to usurp the board's stupidity because something about the low voltage part of the board can't handle the load. If I do that and it still doesn't work, then one of these things may be the problem, but they'll be easy to isolate one after the other. And I've already done this exact thing on that unit and that unit. These boards just crap out. Okay, listen, I think I've used the word janky already in this video, and this is janky. But if you are... Here goes that cool little plane again, look at it. If you're open with the owner about what you're doing, this board is the problem and the cooling circuit in it. So I want to pull out the intelligence that's in my way, but I need to keep the intelligence that's the safeties. So what I've done is brought the 24 volts directly from the thermostat, right? Then I'm running it into this blue wire, which runs down to my low pressure switch. Then that runs out back up into this black wire, which runs down to my high pressure switch, which then runs back up to 122A right there, which we've got connected there. Now my unit's not calling and I can't really jump it, but let me show you. Okay, so again, that's what I was connected to. But so now when I jump this, contactor pulls in, everything runs. Remember before I was jumping it and it wouldn't run. It can't handle, something about that cooling circuit can't handle the load in the board. Now, we did have burnt up contactors and we 100% did have a dead fan. So all that stuff was needed, but still the core of our problem was, even once we had it up and running yesterday, we didn't have a solid enough 24 volts to keep it going.